Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And in today's range report, we're going to be taking a look at another cool Smith & Wesson pistol, and one that comes from their M&P line. Today we're looking at the Smith & Wesson M&P9 Spec series. Now this is a limited production gun from the Performance Center. It has an aluminum frame, so it borrows that from the metal frame series of the M&P line. It's designed to be kind of a mix between a competition gun, as you can tell with the compensator here on the front and all these lightning cuts, and a range gun. They claim it shoots very flat and very fast. It is obviously an olive drab, and that is the one color this gun comes with. The gun is branded as the Spec series. You can see it here on the side of the barrel. And it's supposed to be, as I said, a limited production gun, something kind of special and kind of different. And the MSRP of this is quite a bit higher than your standard M&P pistol. So I'm really excited to get a chance to take this thing to the range and see what it's all about. I will say, in general, I am a big Glock fan, but the Smith & Wesson M&P series I think comes in a very close second. And when they came out with the M2.0 series, I thought it was just a fantastic upgrade from the originals. I did not like the 1.0s, but the 2.0s are awesome. And this one is based off of the 2.0 and comes out of the Performance Center. So I'm really expecting this thing to be pretty darn awesome. So before we get this thing to the range, as always, I want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this really cool and rare pistol. His name is Jack. In fact, he's the first person named Jack to lend guns to the channel, because now I have two people that do. So I'm going to affectionately call him Jack number 1. So thank you again, Jack, for lending this amazing gun to the channel. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters, because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here, and I couldn't do it without them. And if you guys want to join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month, there will be a link in the description below. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor, who always provides all of the ammunition for these range reports, thus making them financially feasible for me, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And even though today I am not reviewing a gun that takes wood panel grips, I know you like fine and collectible firearms. If you're watching this video, you're definitely interested in something rare and unique, and you probably have a few very nice firearms yourself sitting in your safe. Maybe you have a Colt 1911, a Browning High Power, a Beretta 92, or a CZ75, just to name a few. And you've been thinking to yourself, I really want to get something that would make these special and stand out. Well, I have the perfect grip company for you, Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company making a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. Mark is an artist, he's a craftsman, and he offers so many other services besides making one-of-a-kind unique grips. He can make pistol stands, wood panel grips for modern sporting rifles like the AR-15, and he even has a laser engraving service for PMAGs and AK-47 mags. He offers so many different services for the Second Amendment community. He can make grips out of laminate woods. He can apply custom textures, custom logos, custom engravings, and even apply exotic materials like snakeskin and alligator skin to your grips to make them unique and one of a kind. So I'm going to put a link to his website in the comment section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. I'm going to ask you guys to go check out and see everything he has to offer. And when you place that order for that set of customized grips, please tell Mark the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so let's talk about this really cool Smith & Wesson M&P9 that we have on the workbench today. Once again, this is called the Spec series. It has a metal frame made of aluminum, but it has all of the other features that you would find on the M&P line. This does utilize a full-size frame. It has a 4.6-inch barrel. It is finished in olive drab with black accents. It is a limited edition firearm. It does come with a compensator, and we're going to talk about that a lot in this review because I got some problems with it. And it also also comes with a very unique box. Now, when I went over to Jack's to pick this up for this review, I was surprised to see a Smith & Wesson M&P box of this size. This thing is gigantic compared to all of the other ones that I have seen and held and the ones that I personally own. But this is a complete package. It's not just the gun, but let me show you what comes in the box here. We do get a challenge coin, which is really, really nice. Comes enclosed in this nice plastic case. You do get a knife, you get all of the different grips, and you get a bunch of magazines. So we get a total of 3 standard capacity magazines. I believe these hold about 17 rounds, and you do get 2 extended 23 round magazines. So they are not skimpy when it comes to the number of mags that they give you. And they also give you a thread protector if you want to take off the compensator. And so there's a lot that comes in this box, and it is quite big. It is a nice little package that they have put together for this gun, and I think that's also a huge selling point. So as always, I want to talk about the things that I like and don't like before getting it to the range, and I always want to start with the positive first. And the biggest positive about this gun is that it is a Smith & Wesson M&P. I really feel like outside of Glock, when it comes to striker-fired handguns, I really feel like the M&P series takes the cake. As I said, I am kind of a Glock fanboy, and maybe I'm a little bit biased. And I know there's a lot of companies out there that are making striker-fired handguns. I've really felt that the M&P line just has the right stuff. It's like a Glock, but it's a little bit more modernized. I like the aesthetics of it. We have those front and rear cocking serrations. I like everything that they milled into this gun. I like the stamping on it. I like the logos. For me, this is just a very, very attractive pistol. I like the fact this particular edition does come with suppressor height sights, and I believe the reason they do that is not just in case you run a suppressor, but if you do run a red dot, which this is milled out for a red dot, you can use these sights if the red dot goes down. I'm a big fan of this color as well, even though I think I like Flat Dark Earth just a little bit more. Olive Drab is definitely very cool and neat. I love the capacity of this gun. If you're allowed to own these magazines in your jurisdiction, 23 rounds in a gun like this is definitely advantageous. I do like the fact it does utilize the modular grips from the standard M&P line. And the last thing I really like is the fact it does have a Performance Center M2.0 trigger in it. Now, it's not my favorite trigger, but when it comes to the pull, not the reset, I think this trigger is absolutely fantastic. So what I want to do is adjust the camera, and I want to get out the Lyman trigger pull weight gauge, and I want to test this trigger out and see what it's all about. So let me do that now. So let's get a close-up look at this trigger in the Smith & Wesson M&P9 Spec series. I'll drop the magazine, ensure there's no ammunition in it, and of course safety check the firearm, ensure there's no ammunition in the chamber. Looks like we are good. Let me go ahead and show you a close-up of this trigger pull. We do have kind of a medium-long take-up. It is slightly gritty, but you do hit a wall, and it has a very nice crisp break. Feels pretty light. And then on the reset, it's relatively short, but you'll notice it's not very tactile or audible at the reset. That's the one thing about this trigger and M&P triggers in general I don't like. I really do like that feel of a Glock reset, but the break on this trigger is really crisp and very nice. So let me get out the Lyman trigger pull weight gauge. Let's see what this trigger actually measures at. Let me clear the averages, and let's pull this a few times and see what it measures at. For our first pull, 4 pounds, 10.4 ounces. 4 pounds, 12.7 ounces. 4 pounds, 10.0 ounces. £4 pounds, 10.1 ounces. And finally, 4 pounds, 12.4 ounces, which gives us an average of 4 pounds, 11.1 ounces. Overall, I feel like this is a really nice trigger. Anything below 5 pounds and above 4 pounds, I think is fantastic for a gun of this style. And it does feel relatively light and crisp. I actually kind of feel like 4 pounds and 11 ounces is a little bit heavier than what I really feel like it is. But that's what it is measuring at. So it has a very short reset. I wish it was louder and more tactile, but the take up is a little bit long, but the break is crisp. So that's all you need to know about this trigger. So let's get back to the rest of this range report and let me talk about a few things about this gun that I don't like. And as you can see, the trigger that comes in this stock is pretty darn good. Now, I know a lot of people are always going to say, go out and buy the Apex triggers. I really feel like this trigger is upgraded enough from Smith & Wesson that you don't really have to do that. Now, if you really want to be picky and have all those different options, you can go with the Apex trigger. But I think right out of the box, Smith & Wesson does a pretty darn good job with this. And personally, if I own this gun, I would keep this trigger in it. But now let's talk about a couple things about this gun that I don't like. And the first thing I don't like about this gun, I think, is a major problem with the design, and that is going to be the compensator. Now, obviously, this gun is designed a little bit to be a competition gun, and these compensators are kind of like the new hotness. You see them a lot on 2011 style pistols. It's not part of the barrel necessarily, it's just an attachment. This is a threaded barrel and it does screw on. It's not like the gun is ported like the Glock C series. Even though they do put some lightning cuts in here, I feel like that would be something that they could do with a different barrel design, but they decided to go with a compensator. And I will tell you that there are a lot of complaints with people having these compensators come off. Now, I have reviewed other guns like 2011s that have compensators that are better designed, not from a performance standpoint, but how they're attached. This compensator simply screws on, and then to clock it, you have to use a couple of set screws, which are right here on the side. And you have to make sure those things are tightened down really tight, or when you're using this gun, they're going to come loose and the compensator is going to start to rotate, and that can be a problem. Now, I know some people are going to say, why don't you use Loctite? Well, Smith & Wesson did put on red Loctite on this when I first got this, and I had to remove it because I wanted to clean the barrel. And the only way to get the barrel out of this gun, or if you wanted to use that thread protector or run a suppressor on it, you have to take off the compensator. So I had to remove that thread locker, and it really was on there kind of tight. I had to really heat up this barrel and this comp to get it off. So if you're somebody like myself that likes to clean your guns regularly or run a suppressor, you're going to need to be able to get this comp off pretty easy. So red Loctite might not be the way to go. And I know some people are going to say, well, use blue Loctite. The problem is that stuff is going to burn off at the temperatures this barrel is going to get up to. Other 2011 companies simply make slots in the barrel where those set screws go between. And even if they come loose a little bit, it holds the compensator on and prevents it from rotating. But these set screws simply just rub up against the barrel, locking it into place where you clocked it. This is not a very good design. And if you go online, a lot of people complain about this. And I'll go ahead and spoil it. In this review, when I'm at the range, I'm constantly having to tighten this compensator down to keep it on. It's a real pain in the butt. I really feel like if they wanted to go in this direction, they should have just had a compensated barrel like Glock does with their C series and used these lightning cuts. It's a much better design. The other thing about this gun that really annoyed me is, by the way, when I take this gun to the range in this range report, it's actually the second time I had to take it to the range because I had problems with the optics and the front sight was not centered. In fact, I still don't think it is. I tried to adjust it a little bit, but I'm going to have a little bit of accuracy issues with it shooting a little bit to the left. But the sight was not centered at all from the factory. So the first time I went to the range, I had a red dot on this, and this is going to be the big problem I want to complain about. This gun does have a loaded chamber indicator, and you can see this right here on the top of the barrel. It has a little port in it where if there is a round in the chamber, you can look down in that and see the rim of the cartridge. But under firing, you are going to get a lot of gas come out of that little port. And if you're running a red dot on this, the window or lens of that red dot is going to get absolutely filthy after about a magazine and a half, and you're constantly having to wipe it off, and it gets kind of annoying. So between the compensator wanting to come off and constantly having to clean the lens of the red dot, I just took the red dot off and just got rid of that. That was an annoying aspect of having to shoot this. This is a poor design. If you're going to have a gun that's going to run a red dot, Smith & Wesson needs to change this barrel design and just go with a standard barrel like you would see on a Glock, or have a loaded chamber indicator designed a different way in a different place where that gas is not going to come back on that lens. And this is another thing people do complain about when it comes to the M&P series. But when I shot this one especially, I had lots of problems. It was very annoying. All right, so that's what I like and don't like about this pistol, and a little bit about the trigger. So let's get this thing to the range and let's see how it shoots. So as always, I'm going to start off with the target at just 7 yards. And I did already tell you I've had it to the range before, and I have adjusted the sight. So we're taking it back to the range. So here we go, 7 yards, 1 magazine. Let's just see if this gun does shoot fast and shoot flat. And so I can tell you from just shooting this, their marketing is spot on. This gun is easy to shoot fast. In fact, you kind of want to run it a little bit faster than maybe you would another pistol. That compensator does reduce the recoil, and the gun is very flat shooting. So from a shooting perspective, it's a very shootable firearm. It just feels pretty good in my hands. This grip texture might be a little bit on the aggressive side, but I know a lot of people really like it very aggressive these days. I don't think you would need to have that stippled anymore. It might be a little bit much for some people, but for me, it's on the very aggressive side, but I can manage it. Overall, the gun seems to be pretty darn accurate, and I'm having no other issues with it. All right, so now let's double the distance on this target. I'm going to shoot for the head on this IDPA silhouette. I want to see what happens to this group. I'm going to try to take my time a little bit more with this gun and see if I can keep it shooting pretty accurate. So here we go. Let's go back to the range, put another magazine through it, and see if there's anything about this gun that I discover that I like or don't like, and I'll report back to you. And that wasn't my best group, but I guess it's okay for range or practical accuracy. And after all, these are pretty much just my first few magazines through this gun, so I still am getting used to it. I took my time with it this time as compared to the first shots, and I can tell you I sure do miss that audible and tactile reset of a Glock trigger. I wish this trigger just had that. The trigger pull is absolutely fantastic, but I just like that confirmation when that trigger comes out just a little bit, to feel that click and to hear that click and know that I'm ready to go again. I just don't get that with this trigger. The other thing I'm starting to notice, and I've already mentioned it in my complaints with this gun in the beginning of this video, is this compensator is already starting to come loose. So before I shoot it on the bench rest test, which is up next, you're going to see me having to tighten this compensator back down. It does get annoying, and pretty much I'm having to do it between every shooting take at the range. This is just a poorly designed compensator, and how it's attached, I think, needs to be addressed. But as I mentioned, the next portion of this range report is the bench rest test, and I'm going to set the target about 20 or 25 yards. I'm going to shoot this from a bench or a barrier and just see if I can take as much of the human element out of the equation as possible. So here we go. Let's go back to the range, another magazine through this, and let's see how I shoot it at about the furthest distance I can at this indoor range. And overall at this distance, I'm not happy with that group, but I think it has to do more with the sights than anything else. And I know some people are going to say, Jason, you're a horrible shot, you're pulling the gun. But I'm telling you, when I first took this thing to the range with the red dot, and then when I was having problems with that red dot and I was using the iron sights, I began to notice this gun was shooting way off. And I had to bring it back and get out my sight pusher because this front sight was way off center. And I tried to get it back on center, but I still think it needs a little bit of adjustment. And I was very disappointed with Smith & Wesson's quality control. And I mentioned that in a video on the Texas Gun Vault 2, my behind the scenes channel. But I did adjust it, but I think it needs a little bit more. But at that distance and in my darker range, I really can't see where all those rounds are impacting the target. So I have to wait for that target to come back in to see where everything went. So now I know pretty much where I need to hold at the further distances. All right, so the next test I want to do is the hollow point test. Of course, you may buy this as an all-around gun. It's kind of a competition gun, kind of a range gun, but you could also use this for home defense and maybe personal carry. So of course you're going to want to know, are hollow points going to run in this? And being a modern handgun, I really don't see why they wouldn't, but we need to test it, right? So let's go back to the range, let's put some hollow points through this and just make sure it functions well. And as expected, the gun is running flawlessly. I was noticing with those hollow points, I was getting more powder and sparks coming from the ejection port, so I'm not really sure what's causing that. I also don't think this gun really needs the compensator. I have shot the metal framed M&Ps before, and to be very honest with you, those shoot absolutely fantastic, very flat shooting, and I don't really notice much muzzle rise on them because this metal frame already adds so much weight. I really don't think this compensator is very needed. If this was my personal gun, I would go ahead and take it off and just run it with the thread protector or run it suppressed. I think that's the way this gun would perform the best. Alright, so the next test I want to do is give my wife Becky a chance to shoot this. I'm actually kind of curious what she's going to think. She may like this compensator because she likes it when guns shoot very flat, but there's one thing about this gun I already know she's going to complain about it. And if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you know that I say she is grip sensitive because she doesn't like these aggressive textures. And I've already talked about this is more on the aggressive side for me. So most likely when she's shooting this, she's not going to like it. But sometimes she surprises me. So let me load up a magazine, get this thing in her hands, see what she thinks about it, and see how she shoots it. And to my surprise, she was not even able to finish the magazine before putting the gun down. And after we brought in the target and I turned off the camera, I asked her, what happened? You didn't even finish the magazine. She said it hurt too much to shoot. And yes, she is a lady with some daintily hands, but I think this is an important thing to document. Now, are there ladies out there that can shoot this gun absolutely fine? Of course there are. But my wife, as I said, is grip sensitive. And I know that many people that watch my channel are the big alpha males, and this probably isn't even aggressive enough for them. But for some ladies out there that might be looking for the perfect do-all gun, a range gun, a self-defense gun, and who knows, maybe kind of a target or competition gun, which I think is what this gun is really trying to go for, they might not like this grip texture. And this is why I always say, if you're concerned about these things, try to find a range that rents these so you can try them out before you buy them. Don't just look at some YouTube reviewer and say, that's the gun for me. Take all the pros and cons from any review and then think about what would you like or not like in that gun, then go try it out. Use those reviews to narrow down your choices, because I can tell you, if my wife had bought this gun and then took it to the range and shot it and hated it that much, it would be a big regret. But she did not like this grip texture, and this really turned her off from this gun. So if you are also grip sensitive, I recommend you try before you buy. Alright, so the next test I want to do is the quick magazine change test. Now this is going to my favorite part of the review, getting to shoot this gun fast. I always want to see how fast I can drop these magazines, get a new one in there, get the gun back in action, and I also want to test if I can point shoot this gun accurately. So I'm not a competition shooter, but if I owned a gun like this, I may have to use it in a self-defense scenario. And as I always say, as much as we like to think we're going to train, get the target in our sights, often the adrenaline is going to be rushing through your veins, and you just might point the gun where you want it to go and pull that trigger fast. And is the gun shootable? Can you shoot it fast? And is it accurate if you're just generally pointing it in that right direction? So let's go to the range. Let's shoot this thing fast, get the magazine changed out, and just see if it's a naturally pointing firearm. And for me, with the mushy reset, it's harder for me to get a good rhythm when it comes to shooting it fast. I can shoot it fast, but I can't maintain it very well. Now, when it came to dropping the magazine, I can do it really fast here. I really wish that this magazine button had an extension to it. It'd be much easier to get my thumb over to it and get that magazine dropped. That slowed me down just a little bit. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be aftermarket options for this, but this gun kind of is designed for competition shooting. And these are options that I would want to get right out of the box. It's not bad. It has a nice texture to it. You can reach it easy, but I really wish it was just a little bit more extended. And I think I would be able to change the magazine out faster that way. All right, so the last test I want to do is really not a test at all. It's just me having fun with it. I'm going to load up one of these 23 round magazines and essentially just do a mag dump. It's just fun to shoot fast. So let me do that, have some fun with it, and then I'll come back here and give you guys my final thoughts. And this gun does what they claim it's going to do. It does shoot flat and it does shoot fast. It's just like other M&P9s. They're just good quality guns. I had no issues with it whatsoever in the entirety of this review. It just functions, and everything that I put through it, it shot just fine. So what are my final thoughts on the Smith & Wesson M&P Spec series? This is a really cool pistol. I love limited edition firearms. I think it has a very cool look. But in my opinion, the first thing I would do if I owned this pistol is I would dump this comp. This comp needs to go. It keeps coming loose. I don't think there's much of an advantage to it, especially with the aluminum frame. If you've ever shot any of the metal frame M&Ps, you know they already are very light recoiling and very flat shooting. I also think this gun tries to bridge a gap between a competition gun or a range gun and a self-defense gun. And sometimes when you have a gun like that, you're not going to please many people, because the people that are really looking for a competition gun or a race gun are going to look at this and go, well, there's features of it that aren't really what I'm wanting or looking at. And if you're somebody looking for a range gun or a self-defense gun, it has a lot of options to be a race gun. You're like, that just might be a little bit too fancy for what I'm looking for. I think most people that are looking for a range toy really aren't going to like this compensator, and you might have a harder time finding holsters for this. So this is one of those that I think they're trying to bridge the gap. It does things very well, but some people that are in one camp or the other may not like it. But like all M&Ps, if there's something about this you don't like, there's a huge aftermarket and you can change it out. But at this price point, this is a gun that I would want exactly how I would want to set it up right out of the box. But I have to hand it to Smith & Wesson. They make a quality firearm. The gun ran good. Might not have been the most accurate gun in the world for me. I had some issues with the comp. I had some issues with the front sights, but it ran. And so on my star system, how would I rate the Smith & Wesson M&P9 Spec series? Aluminum frame, full size frame with a 4.6 inch barrel. I am happily going to give this 4 out of 5 stars. It did not exceed my expectations, but it is a solid gun, a solid offering, and it runs like all of the other M&P9s. just fine. And if you love the M&P series, you're probably going to shoot this thing fantastic and absolutely love it. And if you like to collect Smith & Wessons, I really feel like this is going to have some collector value in the long run. You definitely do get a nice package with this box, with the knife and the challenge coin, and of course all of the magazines. So that is my thoughts and opinions and range report on the Smith & Wesson M&P9 Spec series. What do you guys think about this pistol? Did you even know about it? I hadn't heard about it before Jack lent it to the channel, so I was really excited to get a chance to shoot it. And I have to say, there's some things about this I really like and some things I don't like. But 4 out of 5 stars I still think is a pretty good rating. So tell me if you think I got it right in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.